Warriors Nation, breathe with me. If you woke up today thinking you were finally going to see that exchange happen, I know the bitter taste that hit you when the news came out of nowhere. Because it's always like this. We create hope. The rumor heats up. The team seems one step away from closing, and suddenly, it collapses. And the worst. Now there's a detail that's keeping everyone on alert. There are signs that the NBA may have gotten involved in this story. But calm down, because I won't leave you lost in the chaos of tweets and speculation. In the next few minutes, I will show you directly what really fell apart, what can still be saved, and what is the most realistic path for Warriors not to leave this window empty-handed. Stay with me until the end, because the latest information completely changes the reading of this unexpected turn. Before I give you the details of this turn of events, do the following quickly because this changes everything here on the channel. Subscribe now so you don't become a hostage to recycled rumors and always get the real updates from the Warriors first. Leave a like too. It's a click, but it's what makes this video reach more fans and keeps us strong against misinformation. And activate the bell, because when this story unlocks, the notification will be the difference between you knowing right away or only finding out when it has become old news. And comment below just one word: Vireta. I want to see how many are connected and really following. Now come with me, because what happened behind the scenes of this exchange is heavier than it seems. And the next piece of this story could change the course of the season. If you've been following the Warriors long enough, you know that there are moments that don't seem like just another market rumor. They sound different, heavier, as if each decision carries something greater than numbers, contracts, or spreadsheets. What is happening now is exactly that. It's not just about an exchange that didn't happen. It's about the silent fear of wasting the last few years of something that may never happen again. Let's be honest with each other. When the first signs of movement began to circulate, many people felt that spark return, the feeling that the front office finally understood the magnitude of the moment. Because when you have Stephen Curry still playing at an elite level, every season should be treated as rare, as limited. How precious. And yet suddenly, everything stopped. The narrative has turned. The exchange cooled off. And what was expectation turned into frustration. What bothers most is not the name that fell off the radar. It's the feeling of indecision, of hesitation, as if the team was standing at a crossroads, looking both ways, afraid to choose either path. On the one hand, the urgency to win now. On the other, the fear of compromising the future. And in the midst of it all, a fan base that fully understands what is at stake. Because this is not a 3, 4, or 5-year window. This window is short, much shorter than many want to admit. Curry is not eternal. Draymond is no longer the same. Klay is no longer there. And when you look at the current unromantic cast, it's clear that something is missing. There is a lack of offensive weight in decisive moments. There is a lack of someone capable of creating when the system breaks. There is a lack of security when the game gets tight and everything becomes half-court. That's why the debate surrounding a proven veteran affected the fans so much. Not because it is the perfect solution, but because he represents something this team has lost in recent years. Predictability in big games. Someone who doesn't hide when the defense doubles down on Curry. Someone who understands the deafening silence of a Game 7 away from home. Someone who has already been there. At the same time, there is a fascination with the younger name. By the player who fits the modern model. Who shoots well, defends, runs the court, and would still be under contract for several years. On paper, it makes sense. In the spreadsheet, it looks smart. The problem is that real basketball rarely follows paper alone. And when you're competing against teams like Denver, Oklahoma, or even the Lakers, the margin for error is slim. This is where the real pain for the fan begins, because the more time passes, the clearer it becomes that this balance between winning now and preparing for tomorrow may be an illusion. The league is full of examples of franchises that tried to please both sides and ended up winning neither. We're stuck in limbo, competitive enough not to rebuild, but insufficient to compete for a real title. And when reports surface that interest in certain names simply isn't there despite the obvious fit, the question remains simple and uncomfortable. What exactly is the front office waiting for? A perfect opportunity that may never come along. A young, cheap player ready to win now and still carry the future on his shoulders? This almost doesn't exist on the T-Market rocks. And when it does exist, the price is brutal. On the other side of this equation is Jonathan Kuminga, a real talent. Young, athletic, with flashes that make any fan imagine a gigantic leap. But also inconsistent, still in formation, and now shrouded in rumors that reduce its value. When a player becomes seen as an inevitable bargaining chip, the league takes notice, rivals know, and the bargain disappears. This puts the Warriors in a fragile position, because negotiating based on necessity almost never generates good agreements, and at the same time, not negotiating can be even worse. Staying with the current squad, hoping that everything will be resolved internally, sounds increasingly like too risky a bet for someone who still has one of the greatest players in history wearing their shirt. The hardest thing to accept is that there may not be a perfect answer. Perhaps there is no clean, fair, balanced exchange. Perhaps any decision comes with pain, sacrificing future choices to try one last push, or protect tomorrow and accept that today may not be enough. The problem is that time doesn't wait, the calendar advances, the deadline approaches, and each game played without change weighs a little more. It is impossible not to remember past decisions, choices that seemed right at the time and proved disastrous later, contracts that didn't work, bets that didn't pay off. This explains part of the current fear. No one wants to be responsible for the error that closes that window for good. But there is an even greater risk. The risk of doing nothing and watching the story slip through your fingers. Ultimately, it all comes down to a question that few want to face head-on. Are the Warriors still really one piece away from competing for a title? Or is this just an attempt to prolong something that is past its prime? It's a tough question, uncomfortable, but necessary. Because the decisions made now don't just define this season. They shape the next 10 years of the franchise. The Western setting doesn't help. Hungry young people, deep casts, stars in full rise. Competing in this environment requires conviction, requires boldness, requires clarity, and that's what seems to be missing at the moment. Not talent, not resources, but a firm vision about which path to follow. For the fans, there is only anxiety. The feeling of watching something big decide itself off the court, without control. Every report, every rumor, every silence from the front office becomes a reason for debate, of hope, of frustration. Because everyone knows that it is not just an exchange, it is the legacy of an era. The solution, if it exists, involves taking calculated risks. By understanding that title windows are not protected by an abundance of caution. They require courage. The right courage doesn't always lead to the title, but its absence almost always leads to regret. In the next few days, everything could change. A connection, an adjusted proposal, a decision made at the limit, or nothing happens. And maybe that's the scariest part, because while the league moves, staying still is also a choice, and it can be the most painful of all. Now I want to hear from you. Looking at all this, what would you do if you were in the front office's shoes? Would he go all out in one last attempt to fight for the title? Would you accept a proven veteran even though you know it's a short-term solution? Or would you protect the future and live with the consequences of it? Write here in the comments, because this conversation doesn't end here. She's just getting started. And that's exactly why this moment isn't just another chapter of the season. It's a breaking point. A decision that will resonate far beyond the next game, the next month, or the next trade. What the Warriors do now will define how this era will be remembered, as that of a team that had the courage to fight until the last second, or as that of a dynasty that hesitated when it could not hesitate. The clock is ticking. Each day without an answer weighs heavily. Every silence from the front office increases the tension. And meanwhile, Stephen Curry continues to deliver historic nights as if he was wordlessly asking someone to do something, for someone to respond. Because talent still exists. What's missing is decision. So don't turn your back now. This story is far from over, and the next moves could change everything from one moment to the next. If you want to follow every update, every behind the scenes, every real turn of this drama that involves the future of the Golden State Warriors, go now to the pinned comment and join the Golden State Warriors News Today playlist. There are all the videos that connect the dots, without noise, without empty hype, just the clearest reading of what is really happening. Stays close by, because when that decision comes, you'll want to understand why, and not just the result.